Anyway, this is your first book, the one you were just talking about.
Yes.
The Unholy.
Supernatural Tale of the Dark Side of Religion is at the top of that. Yep.
Yes, that won the International Book Award.
Wonderful.
That mountain there, is that Shiprock?
No, looks like Shiprock. It's actually the Devil's Throne.
Oh, is it really?
That is the Devil's Throne, a literal mountain. Well, it's a hill, really, in between Albuquerque and Santa Fe along the Turquoise Trail. It's described in the story. It's a central feature of the Unholy.
That's not too far from Shiprock either, I don't think.
It is, actually. Shiprock is out toward Gallup to the west.
Yep.
To the west, okay.
Yeah, and this is toward the north, toward Santa Fe.
Believe it or not, I got turned around.
I believe it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that story without giving anything away? I mean, we know what it's about, but...
Sure. The Unholy is about the struggle of a young woman, a healer. She's a massage therapist, and she is struggling because she comes from an ancestry, a maternal ancestral line is that of curanderas. They're female healers. There's an entire tradition of female healers, and earlier on, because she's mixed blood, mestiza, she's both Hispanic and Native American. They were actually healer warriors, very powerful women. But her mother was killed in a very brutal way for being a healer, a curandera. So she's fleeing from that. She saw her mother. She witnessed that act. I'm going to read you, once we're ready, from the prologue, the dramatic prologue to the Unholy. And involved in this, the antagonist is an evil archbishop, and he's cast a spell over the land of Aslan, which is a veiled reference to the state I live in. And it's a mythopoeic realm, though all of my stories are mythopoeic. There is a real world, everyday reality setting, but it is in it's actually playing out in Aslan. It's a realm of spirits, of mystery, of intrigue, of things happening out of the blue and changing people's lives. And it's about, she struggles with opening up her eyes to what the entire community believes is good, and she's witnessed something very different. And she isn't sure, because she was such a young girl when things happened, who this was that did this to her mother. But she is desperately running, really, from being who she is called to be, for fear of the same thing happening to her. So she has to come to a reckoning with her own destiny in the face of enormous evil supported by the culture and society around her.
Amazing. Sounds really good. You want to go ahead and read that prologue now?
Oh, yes, sure.
That'd be great.
And this is the prologue from The Unholy, a supernatural tale of the dark side of religion. Lightning streaked across a midnight dark sky, making the neck hairs of a 5-year-old girl crouched beneath a cluster of 20-foot pines in the turquoise mountains of Aslan stand on end. The long wavy strands of her auburn mane floated outward with a static charge. It felt as though the world was about to end. Seconds later, lightning struck a lone tree nearby, and a crash of thunder shook the ground. Her body rocked back and forth, trembling with terror. She lost her footing, sandstone crumbling beneath her feet, and then regained it. Still, she did not feel safe. There appeared to be reddish eyes watching from behind scrub oak and mountain pines, scanning her every movement and watching her quick breaths. Then everything became silent. The girl leaned against the trunk of the nearest tree. The night air wrapped its frigid arms tightly around her, and she wondered if she would freeze to death, or even worse, stay there through the night and by morning be nothing but blood and bones left by hungry animals. Her breaths became quicker and were so shallow that no air seemed to reach her lungs. The dusty earth gave up quick bursts of sand from gusts of northerly winds that blew so fiercely into her nostrils that she coughed, but tried to stifle the sounds because she didn't want to be noticed. As she squeezed her arms around the trunk of the pine tree, the scent of sap was soothing. Finally, the wind died down and sand stopped blowing into her face. She slowly opened her eyes, hoping she would be in another place, but she was not. In fact, the reality of her waking nightmare was more obvious than ever. Wide-eyed with fear at the nightmarish scene playing out before her, she clung to the tree. In the distance, she saw her mother raising a staff with both hands, her arm muscles bulging underneath her soaked blouse. Directed straight ahead, her mother's gaze was like that of an eagle, her power as mighty as the winds and the lightning. The girl loved her mother, and through her mind sent her strength, so that she would win this battle and the two of them could safely go away from this scary place. The girl turned to follow as her mother's gaze shifted to an area farther away and so dark that only shadows seemed to abide there. To and fro, her mother's eyes darted before fixing on a black cloaked figure who emerged from behind a huge boulder surrounded by tall trees whose branches crisscrossed the sky. He was much bigger than her mother, at least by a foot, and his cloak flapped wildly as winds once again ripped through the mountains. Swinging a long hooked pole, the man bounded toward her mother like a hungry beast toward its prey. His black cloak looked like the wings of a huge bat as they reflected the eerie light of the full moon. As his pole caught the moonlight and a golden glow bounced back onto the figure, the girl saw his face with its cold blue eyes that pierced the nighttime chill. He seemed to grow bigger with each step, and the girl's heart pounded so loudly that she was sure he would be able to hear it. The stranger stopped a short distance from the girl, crouched low between rows of trees, trying to make herself disappear. She saw him clearly as he threw his head back and let out a high-pitched cry like a rabid coyote. The air crackled, thunder struck, lightning flashed. She was blinded and then could see again. Quick as a crazed coyote jumps and bites, the man struck her mother, his black cape flapping wildly in the wind. The girl leapt to her feet, her legs trembling, her knees buckling. Straining to see through the branches, she was terrified. The moon vanished behind dark clouds rolling overhead. Then came a scream of terror that cut to the bone. Now the night was lit up again by lightning flashing across the mountain range, and the girl could see the black hooded man hit her mother again and again. Her mother crumpled to the ground and stopped moving. The girl's hand flew to her open mouth, stifling a scream. The man stood over her mother, his long pole poised in the air, ready to strike again. A twig snapped in the forest, and the girl spun toward the sound, holding her breath. Then she saw three gray forms slowly creeping toward her through the darkness and recognized them as wolves. She was not afraid as they encircled her, their warm fur brushing her skin. One after another, the wolves lifted their snouts and looked into her eyes. each silently communicating that she would be protected. Her mother cried out again. The girl turned and saw her rising to her feet, then striking the man's chest with her staff. As he batted his pole against her shoulders, her staff flew out of her hands, landing yards away in a thicket of scrub oak. Her mother screamed and blindly groped for it. The girl jumped up, then stopped when the black hooded figure looked her way. Tears clouded her vision, and all she saw was darkness. Tears rolled down her cheeks, dropping into the tiny streams of water. Running beneath the tree she was clutching, she looked down and saw the dim reflection of her frightened self. As she peered through the trees to catch sight of her mother, a wailing wind blew the man's cloak into the air, making him look again like a monstrous bat. Once more he swung his rod high and smashed it against the back of her mother's head. She saw and heard her mother's body thump against the hollowed trunk of the lightning-struck tree and slumped to the ground. The evil man bent over her mother's limp body and howled. Suddenly the girl felt arms encircle her waist, and she was swept away deeper into the forest. She sobbed and at first let herself be taken because she had no strength. But then she became angry and started pushing against the arms carrying her, trying to escape and run back to her mother. She wanted to make her mother well, and then this nightmare would stop and they could go away. Hush now, child, said a voice she recognized as that of her mother's closest friend. The man cannot harm you, mijita, as long as you are with us. We will make him think you are dead, but you must be very quiet. Ya no llores, the woman warned, raising a finger to her lips. The woman then carried her into a dark cave illuminated by the light of a single candle. The cave was frightening, with shadows of what appeared to be goblins and demons dancing on the red sandstone walls. I will return for you soon. You will be safe here, the woman said. The girl watched the woman walk away, shivering as a breeze blew through the cave's narrow passages. Closing her eyes, she rocked back and forth, imagining herself safe in her mother's arms, then opened her eyes to the light of the full moon shining through the mouth of the cave. The shadows on the walls were just shadows now, no longer goblins and demons. As she slipped into a trance, images flickered in her mind. She saw the woman who had brought her to this place, scattering pieces of raw meat around the open mesa where her mother had struggled, helped by two other women the girl could not identify. Suddenly, the scene shifted to a stone ledge jutting over the mesa, and she heard the pounding footsteps of a man running toward the women. The girl felt her heart race and her breathing quickening, afraid that the bad man would spot them and kill them. Then the image shifted again, and she now saw on the mesa 3 gray wolves circling the raw meat, and the man walking away from the granite ledge. As he left, she heard his thought, the child is dead.
Wow. That was very impactful.
No kidding.
That was really, really awesome.